A new segment again. New segment September. It's called What Makes It Great, and we're unpacking Nvidia.
Yes, we have spoken about a lot of great companies over the journey. And in this segment, we really, I guess, want to understand what it is that makes them so good.
Yeah.
This, it could be that they have a great management team. It could be that they have a great competitive advantage. Whatever it is, we want to try and understand it, because chances are if we can identify it in these great companies, we can start to identify it in other companies that we might want to invest in.
Yes, because per Mark Twain's quote, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes.
Yeah, in this case, you could say something similar for great companies. They never look exactly the same, but they share similar features.
Yes. So there's been plenty discussed about the financial results of Nvidia, but we don't often discuss as much the factors that have led to such financial success and share market returns, and what has really driven this company to greatness, or at least well on its way.
Let's start by establishing how great it is for people that are not familiar with Nvidia. So, it has more than a 70% market share in AI chip sales, despite competing with Google, Amazon, Meta, IBM, and others. Share price up more than 1,000% since October 2022. We shared this on our social media last week. 76% of employees are millionaires now. 1 in 3 are worth more than $20 million.
And let's put that in absolute numbers, though. 76% of 3,000 employees.
No, 30,000.
Oh, sorry, 30,000. 30,000.
Yeah, that is the power of an employee share scheme.
That is nuts.
Nvidia has a $3 trillion market cap. It is up there with Apple and Microsoft. They're the only companies that have reached that mark. It has profit margins above 50%. And this was a quote from an analyst that we thought really exemplified just how great Nvidia is. Customers will wait 18 months to buy an Nvidia system rather than buy an available off-the-shelf chip from either a startup or another competitor. That is how dominant it is in this space.
Yeah. But a reminder that this chip maker doesn't even make its own chips. It uses TSMC to actually do the manufacturing. So let's unpack what actually makes this company great.
Yeah. What you just said is like brushed over a little bit. Like it doesn't even make its own chips.
Yeah. A lot of reliance on TSMC.
Well, I mean, if you invested in TSMC or if you invested in ASML, the Dutch lithography player that is a monopoly and a crucial supplier to TSMC, you would have done very well with both of those companies as well.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about Nvidia. So, what makes it great? We've kind of pulled out 4 key features that are things that sort of really set Nvidia up, and I guess are things that we should be looking for with other businesses. So the first, and this is one that we hear a lot from expert investors, is that it's founder-led. Now, Jensen Huang he's been the head of the company, co-founded it, been the head of the company for 31 years now, founded in 1993, and just the best.
Yes.
Incredibly dedicated. Yeah, amazing.
Expects a lot from his workers. He's a headline act, well known for wearing a black leather jacket.
Yes, yeah. There was a serious strand of social media that was speculating, because in a recent interview he wasn't wearing a leather jacket, and people were trying to figure out what that meant. It's like, come on, guys, we've gone too far here. He also has the best LinkedIn in the game. His LinkedIn has 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Dishwasher, busboy, and waiter at Denny's for 5 years, and then Nvidia founder and CEO
for 31 years. Yeah. Now, look, that's his LinkedIn game isn't the reason it's such a successful company, but I think that there are examples time and time again, and also experts come on the show time and time again that often show the relationship between a founder-led business and its performance. And it not only drives a lot of interest from an investor standpoint, but when you have someone like Jensen leading for 31 years with such passion and I guess, a clear idea on where this company needs to go,
Yeah.
then the results speak for themselves.
And the reasons that it makes sense, like one, founder-led companies, like the founder to found the company in the first place had a vision and was willing to take risks and was entrepreneurial, and like that continues as they continue to lead the business. Secondly, like they're truly long-term thinkers about this. Like they've dedicated their lives often to build these businesses, so they're thinking long-term and they're trying to forecast where the world is going long-term. And then thirdly, like their whole net wealth, or like the majority of their personal finances are tied up in the success of the company. So like their incentives are truly aligned with shareholders. And you compare that to like the managerial class of CEOs, there's nothing wrong with them, but those three incentives there aren't there. Like they're not as entrepreneurial, they're much more like managerial. They just want things to be ordered for their short stint as leading a company. They're not long-term thinkers, because the average tenure of a managerial CEO is like, 3 to 4 years. And their personal net wealth isn't tied up in this one company in the same way. So their incentives aren't as aligned.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at what makes great companies, when we're looking at other companies being founder-led, that's a big one to look at.
And he's worth $104 billion. So kudos to him. And that leads to the second point, which is they've really led like a step change in technology in this sector. Yeah. So they're well known for obviously their GPUs and microprocessors. And so while standard microprocessors excel at performing really complex calculations sequentially, Nvidia have been able to develop chips and GPUs that do many tasks all at once.
Yeah.
And this is where they've really come to the fore.
And we should be clear, like the first GPU came out in 1999. Like the application of this technology wasn't clear when it was developed. The takeaway here is that if you had recognized that there was a step change in the technology, like that's a hallmark that this could be something in the future. Yeah.
Well, a bit of jargon, GPU being a graphics processing unit, FYI. Leads to our third point, which is they were early, Ren, when it came to identifying what now seems obvious, and it's here and it's dominating AI. But they didn't start out like that. Started in the video game.
Yeah. They started in video games. That was how Nvidia became a thing. But really, if you go back to 2012, researchers used GPUs to achieve human-like accuracy in tasks such as recognizing a cat in an image.
Yeah.
Now, if you just pause there and you think, okay, this GPU can now do a recapture, point out all the crosswalks on the photos as well as a human can. Yeah. Like that doesn't seem like a monumental breakthrough, but obviously we're not as close to all this as Nvidia are. But for them, they realized what it meant, and they turned every aspect of their company to advance the new field. That's a quote from Jensen recently. They spent more than $30 billion in a decade. They became integral to this AI revolution. And so, if we start to look at the ingredients, and obviously hindsight is 2020, but like if we see a founder-led business that had an early technological breakthrough and then sees something and starts dedicating all of their resources and all of their focus towards this new application of their technology in an era where all of the other major technology players didn't see it, all of the big tech companies didn't see it, you start to see, okay, there's like a different view of the world emerging here.
It's reminiscent of Zuckerberg going hard on metaverse, though.
It is. I mean,
he did pull the pin on that.
That's a bad example of, but a good example of it is when Zuckerberg absolutely internally disrupted Facebook as it was then, and said mobile is the focus in 2008. The iPhone had only been released in 2007. This was an early bet, and it was a company-making bet for Facebook at the time.
Absolutely.
So it is, yeah.
And then the final point is it's community-driven, and what we mean by that is everyone is so reliant on this company.
Yeah. Well, not even everyone's so reliant on the company. Everyone builds on Nvidia first. So when when we speak to professional investors, they'll often say what they do to research a company is they speak to management, which we can't really do as retail investors, but they'll also do channel checks. So like, what do suppliers think of the company? What do customers think of the company? What do competitors think of the company? And I think if you did channel checks on Nvidia now, but 5 years ago when AI was starting to emerge as well, everyone built on Nvidia first. And like, that is a hallmark that like the people that are closest to the technology have a clear preference in terms of what technology is the best.
Yeah.
And like that's become like a self-reinforcing cycle, because the more people that build on Nvidia technology, the more applications there are for Nvidia technology, the more use cases that emerge for its technology, which then increases demand for that technology.
Love it. So 4 key takeaways there for Nvidia and what makes it great. There are plenty more, but this company's going to be around for a while. Let's put it that way.
So the question then is really like, you know, how do you find the next one? And that's the hardest thing with investing. And it's easy for us to look in hindsight at a great company and say, here's what made it great. The hard thing is then to do all the work, to trudge through all the companies that are out there and try and identify it again. But I think the point of this segment and what we want to do as investors is just continue to internalize these lessons about what makes great companies, because naturally then when we see the next one, hopefully we've learnt the lesson.
Equity line.
I will say this about investing. Everything you do learn is cumulative. What I learned at 20 is useful.